Efraim Halevy, what outcome do you think the Israeli government wants to see in Syria? A victory for Assad or a victory for the rebels? Or is this Syrian civil war dragging on actually the best of both worlds for Israel because it neutralizes a threat on the country's border, as some would say, it's useful, and it distracts attention from the Palestinian problem?
First of all, 6 successive Israeli prime ministers tried to get peace with Syria. 6 of them. And none of them was able to do this. Syria is the key to peace in the Middle East. It has always been Syria and not any other country. Secondly, I want to say very clearly that the problem in Syria today is not the Syrians. It's the external involvement in Syria.
On both sides or one side?
The Syrians entered a civil war. And within the last few years, at least 3 foreign elements have entered Syria. One was the Hezbollah, and Assad tried, with the help of the Hezbollah, to overcome the opposition, and the Hezbollah failed. Secondly, the Iranians came in, and they failed. They failed dismally. And then the Russians had to come in because the Iranians had failed, and the Russians came in, and they also...
And they would all say foreign fighters came in on the other side.
Foreign fighters are foreign fighters. But the Hezbollah had nothing to do there. The Iranians had nothing to do there. And I think the Russian presence is not contributing even to Russian
So to deal with
security.
my question, what does Israel, in your view, want to see as the outcome in Syria? Assad staying or Assad going? A victory for the rebels or the victory for the government?
I think,
or neither?
I think
of war?
What Israel would like to see would be an outcome where an independent Syria, independent from foreign intervention, was left to its own and was able to chart its course.
So an independent Syria with Assad in control would be fine, as long as it was...
I didn't say in control. I'd say an independent Syria in the confines of the Syrian borders would be able to chart a policy of, shall we say, of peace and of acceptance with its neighbors.
It's a wonderful description. I'm sure many people would support it. You're not actually answering the question. With Assad in charge or the rebels in charge?
Whoever is in charge.
So Israel doesn't have a view, is your answer?
Whoever is in charge and is willing to follow such a policy.
So to be clear, Israel does not have a preference between the rebels and Assad. It's whoever sticks to this description.
I think we have no preference.
Okay, you say no preference. There have been reports that Israel has been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded al-Qaeda aligned fighters?
As I said before, in a different context, it's always useful also to deal with your enemies in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say. So there's no tactical or political strategic...
I didn't say there's no tactical. I said the main consideration, the immediate consideration is humane.
But the tactical issues involved, I mean, you know better than me the phrase blowback. You don't think there's going to be blowback against Israel if you get into bed with a group like Nusra Front?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be blowback.
Why?
Because I think that, unfortunately, the rules of the game in Syria are such that you can do anything that is not possible to be done anywhere else.
Yeah, I think people said that in Afghanistan too. Would you also treat Hezbollah fighters?
No. I would not treat...
Have you not just contradicted what you told me 60 seconds ago about humanely treating your enemies?
No. I think as far as Hezbollah fighters are concerned, with them we have a different account.
So let me be clear, you're happy to treat al-Qaeda fighters, but not Hezbollah fighters?
We have a different account with Hezbollah, a totally different account, because Hezbollah has carried out the type of actions against us which preclude us from going into what the al-Qaeda has done. Al-Qaeda, to the best of my recollection, has up to now not attacked Israel.
But it's attacked your number one ally and protector and sponsor, the United States of America. There is a quote-unquote war on terror being going on for 15 years.
First of all, when it comes to fighting al-Qaeda in intelligence and in other areas, yes, we are together with the United States on all these things.
Okay.
But Israel was not specifically targeted by al-Qaeda, And therefore, it's a different kind of account than we have with Hezbollah.
You've said Israel should talk to Hamas, talk to your enemies.
Yes.
Would you also talk to Hezbollah?
If they change their spots, yes. If they show the inclination, for instance, that certain people in Hamas have shown.
You don't believe anyone in Hezbollah has shown the inclination to Hamas?
No, I think not. Because Hezbollah is an extension of Iran. And unfortunately, the Iranians, I think out of miscalculation, are continuing their policies towards Israel, and they will suffer from it as they are suffering in Syria.